Did you know there is a secret history of our universe? A story that was chiseled out of the temple walls and torn from the sacred papyri. A story not of creation, but of corruption. A story of a single day, a single moment, when the perfect, unbreakable law of cosmic order was shattered and a door was opened that was never meant to be opened. They told you the universe was governed by Maat, the divine principle of truth, balance, and order. They told you this law was absolute, but that is the comforting lie, the story they told the children of the world to keep them from knowing the terrible truth. The truth is, the law was broken. The balance was lost, and on that forgotten catastrophic day, the great serpent of chaos, Apep, was not just a threat in the underworld. He was given a gateway into our world, into your world, into your mind. This is not a myth. It is a diagnosis. It is the story of the original cosmic trauma, the fall that was far greater than any fall in a mythical garden. It is the explanation for the chaos, the fear, the madness of the world you now inhabit. They did not want you to know that the order you live in is a broken order. They did not want you to know that the great enemy is not at the gates. He is already inside. This is the story of the day Maat was broken and how the shadow of the great serpent fell upon the heart of humanity forever. To understand the catastrophe, you must first understand the perfection that was lost. The universe, in its original state, the time of Zep Tepi, the first time, was a perfect expression of Maat. Maat is not a goddess. She is a law, the fundamental operating system of reality. She is the principle of perfect, self-correcting balance. The orbits of the stars, the rhythm of the seasons, the flow of the Nile, the balance between creation and destruction, all of this was Maat. And the consciousness of humanity was a part of this perfect symphony. There was no separation between the divine and the human. The heart of man was as light as the feather of Maat because the heart of man was Maat. There was no chaos, no fear, no lies. Because in a world of perfect, resonant truth, a lie is a physical impossibility. It is a vibration that simply cannot exist. The great serpent, Apep, the principle of entropy and dissolution, was always a part of this reality, but he was contained. He was a necessary shadow, confined to the deepest, darkest part of the duat, the underworld. His role was to be the eternal challenger, the one who tested the strength of the light during its nightly journey, ensuring that the sun that rose each day was strong, courageous, and worthy. He was a cosmic stress test, a vital part of the system, but he was a prisoner of that system. The laws of Maat were the bars of his cage. As long as Maat was whole, Apep could never, ever touch the world of the living. But the forbidden texts, the ones the Osirian priesthood tried to destroy, the texts that speak not of gods, but of cosmic principles, tell of a turning point. They speak of a moment of hubris, of a choice that was made not by humanity, but by the gods themselves. The myth is veiled, coded, and dangerous. It speaks of a time when the gods, in their own perfect and eternal existence, became curious about a state that was impossible within Maat. They became curious about imperfection, about choice, about the experience of not knowing. To a being of perfect, unified consciousness, the idea of a fragmented individual consciousness making choices in a world of illusion was a mystery as profound as the darkness was to the light. And so, a divine experiment was conceived. a plan to create a pocket of reality, a special garden where the laws of Maat could be temporarily relaxed. A world where the consequences of actions were not immediate. A world where a lie could be spoken and could hang in the air for a moment before it was corrected. A world where the heart could become heavy and still continue to beat. This was the original, secret purpose of the creation of the human world. It was not meant to be a paradise. It was meant to be a laboratory, a place for the universe to experience the impossible. But to create this laboratory, a crack had to be made in the perfect, seamless vessel of Maat. A single law had to be bent. And the law they chose to bend was the law of unity. They created the illusion of separation, and in that first, tiny, hairline crack in the structure of cosmic law, the great serpent saw his chance. For millennia, he had been pushing against the walls of his prison, and now he felt a weakness, a vulnerability, a single broken thread in the perfect tapestry of truth. And he began to focus all of his immense, eternal power on that single point. The experiment of the gods was about to become the opportunity of the serpent. The breaking of Maat was not a loud, explosive event. It was a subtle, silent, and insidious one. It was a moment of supreme cosmic deception. The forbidden texts describe this not as a battle, but as a temptation. Apep did not attack the gods with force. He attacked them with a whisper. He projected a thought, a single, poisonous idea, into the heart of the divine council. The idea was a question. What if there is something more than perfection? What if the greatest freedom is the freedom to be imperfect? What if the greatest power is the power to choose chaos over order? This question was a lure. It was a temptation not of the flesh, but of the spirit. It was the ultimate intellectual curiosity, and the gods, in their infinite wisdom, were intrigued. They did not see the serpent's hook hidden within the bait. They saw only the possibility of a new experience, a new understanding, and so they agreed to the experiment. They used their divine power to weave a special corner of the cosmos where Maat was not absolute, where the connection between cause and effect was loosened, where the light of truth was slightly dimmed, allowing for the shadows of doubt and choice to exist. This was the creation of the world you now know. But as they focused their divine attention on this new creation, as they marveled at this strange new game of limitation and free will, their collective gaze, for a single fatal moment, was turned away from the great prisoner in the deep. And in that moment of divine distraction, Apep struck. He did not attack the heavens. He did not attack the underworld. He attacked the crack. He pushed with all his might against the single, weakened thread in the fabric of Maat, and it snapped. It was not a great gaping tear. It was a pinprick, a tiny, almost imperceptible wound in the cosmic law. But it was enough. For the first time, a direct conduit, a microscopic wormhole, had been opened between the deepest part of the underworld and the world of the living. A gateway through which the essence of the great serpent, his consciousness, his frequency, could begin to seep. He could not come through in his full form. The remaining laws of Maat were still too strong, but he could send an influence, a shadow, a whisper. The forbidden texts call this the first venom. It was not a physical poison. It was a psychic one. A single drop of pure, undiluted infect, of chaos, of the will to uncreate, that fell into the heart of the new creation. The consequences were not immediate, but they were absolute. The new human beings, living in their garden of relaxed laws, were the first to feel it. The venomous whisper of Apep found its way into their minds, and it spoke the first lie. The lie was not, "You can be like God." The lie was, "You are separate from God." This was the birth of the ego, the birth of fear, the birth of shame, the birth of the feeling of lack. The human heart, which was created to be a perfect, light reflection of Maat, for the first time felt the cold, heavy weight of a lie, and it began to tip the scales. This was the true fall. It was not the fall of man. It was the fall of a universal law, and humanity was not the cause. We were the first victims. The garden was not a paradise we were cast out of. It was a laboratory that had a containment breach, and the serpent was not a tempter who offered knowledge. He was a cosmic terrorist who planted a virus of fear, of separation, and of the gnawing inner void that is the echo of his own being. The day Maat was broken was the day the inner world of humanity became an open gateway for the great devourer. Some truths are too devastating for a world that is still living in the aftermath of the trauma. The full extent of the serpent's influence and the initiatory path of how to heal the crack within your own soul is a journey for the spiritual warrior. This is the sacred work we are dedicated to in our free newsletter, Insights Academy. To understand the nature of the cosmic war you are born into, sign up with the link in the description. For a limited time, you will also receive a free copy of the Kybalion, a guide to the unbroken laws that still remain. The breaking of Maat and the subsequent infection of human consciousness by the essence of Apep created a new and tragic reality. The gods looked upon their experiment and they were horrified. They had intended to create a contained laboratory for the study of choice, but instead they had opened a Pandora's box of cosmic chaos. Their beautiful, innocent creation, humanity, had been infected with the psychic venom of the void. And the gods were now faced with a terrible dilemma. They could not simply destroy humanity and undo the experiment, because the virus of Apep's consciousness was now woven into the fabric of the human soul. To destroy humanity would be to give the serpent his final victory. But they could not leave humanity in its infected state to be slowly consumed from the inside out by the shadow of the void. So they devised a new plan, a plan of mitigation, a plan of salvation. This is the origin of all religion, of all spiritual paths, of all the stories of saviors and enlightened masters. The gods themselves had to incarnate, to enter into their own flawed creation, to become human, to walk among us as avatars, as teachers, as guides. The purpose of these divine interventions, the Osiris, the Horus, the Christ, the Buddha, was not to rule over humanity, but to teach us how to fight the serpent within. To give us the tools, the wisdom, and the spiritual technologies needed to heal the crack in our own souls, to purge the first venom, and to find our way back to the state of Maat, not by divine decree, but by our own free will. The entire spiritual history of our planet, from that day forward, is the story of this divine rescue mission, a mission to repair the damage caused by a cosmic experiment gone wrong. But the serpent is a cunning enemy. As the gods created religions to guide humanity back to the light, Apep's consciousness worked from within to corrupt those very religions. He took the teachings of unity and twisted them into doctrines of division. He took the message of love and turned it into a weapon of fear. He took the promise of enlightenment and turned it into a system of control. The whisper of the serpent is always the same. It takes what is holy and it inverts it. It makes you fear the body. It makes you ashamed of your desires. It makes you see your own shadow as an enemy to be destroyed rather than a wound to be healed. The chaos of Isfet, which was once just a passive state of being out of balance, now had an active, intelligent, and malevolent will behind it. It had an agenda. And its agenda was to keep you in a state of fear and separation, because a fearful and separated soul is a soul that can be fed upon. This is the war that has been raging for eons, not in the heavens, but on the battlefield of your own heart. Every single spiritual path, every religion, every temple has been infiltrated by the shadow of Apep. And the ultimate test for any seeker is to learn to discern the original, pure teaching of the gods from the subtle, venomous distortions of the serpent. The serpent's signature is always fear, division, and the promise of power over others. The signature of Maat is always love, unity, and the promise of power over yourself. The evidence of this broken reality is all around you if you have the eyes to see it. It is in the very fabric of nature. Why is the natural world so full of both breathtaking beauty and brutal, red-in-tooth and claw violence? Because it is a world where the creative principle of Maat is in a constant struggle with the entropic principle of Apep. It is a wounded creation. It is in the very structure of your own mind. Why is your mind capable of both transcendent, divine thoughts and of the most insane, self-destructive, and chaotic noise? Because it is a mind that is a battleground. It is the garden where the seeds of the gods and the venom of the serpent are at war. And the forbidden texts hint at a deeper, more disturbing layer to this. They suggest that the breaking of Maat did not just allow a psychic influence to enter our world. It altered the laws of death itself. In the original, unbroken order, the soul's journey after death was a clean and efficient process of purification and rebirth. But after the fall, the underworld itself became infected by the presence of Apep. The journey became more perilous, and the texts speak of a new and terrible possibility. The possibility of the soul being consumed, not by the devourer Ammit for its sins, but by the great serpent itself for its despair. The possibility of total annihilation. This is the ultimate tool of fear that has been used to control you. The fear of oblivion. And it was a fear that did not exist in the original, perfect creation. It is a symptom of the broken law. The great secret is that the gods themselves are not immune to this struggle. The battle against Apep every night in the underworld is not a myth. It is the story of the divine consciousness itself having to fight every single day to maintain the fragile order of our wounded cosmos against the ever-present pressure of the void. And they do not always win easily. There are nights when the sun rises late, wounded and pale. These are the dark ages of history, the times when the serpent's influence is strong and the world is plunged into an age of chaos and despair. We are living in such a time right now. The seal is weak, the serpent is strong, and the fate of the dawn is not guaranteed. The most shocking part of this forbidden history is its implication for you. You are not a fallen sinner being punished for a crime your ancestors committed. You are a divine being, a child of a perfect creation, who was born into a compromised and infected reality. You are a volunteer soul who chose to incarnate into a war zone. Your life is not a random series of events. It is a sacred mission. And that mission is to be a warrior for Maat. It is to find the crack within your own being, the place where the venom of the serpent entered your own soul's lineage, and to heal it. You are not here to be saved. You are here to help save a world. How do you do this? You do not fight the serpent with force. That is his game. To attack him with hatred is to feed him with the very energy upon which he thrives. You fight Apep with the one weapon he cannot comprehend and cannot defeat. You fight him with Maat. You become a living, breathing embodiment of the very cosmic law that he is trying to destroy. You fight his chaos with your coherence. You fight his lies with your integrity. You fight his fear with your love. You fight his entropy with your creativity. You become a walking, talking, and fiercely dedicated immune response to the cosmic virus. This is a path of immense and unrelenting discipline. It begins with the decision to take absolute responsibility for your own inner state. You must become a ruthless guardian of your own mind. You observe your thoughts, and when the whispering voice of the serpent arises, the voice of fear, of doubt, of self-hatred, of despair, you do not argue with it. You do not suppress it. You simply see it for what it is, the voice of the enemy. And you refuse to identify with it. You refuse to give it your energy. You let it pass like a dark cloud in the sky of your true divine awareness. Next, you must become an alchemist of your own heart. You must learn to feel your emotions without being consumed by them. Your fear, your anger, your grief. These are the places where the serpent's venom has pooled within you. To heal them, you must be willing to feel them, to bring the gentle, loving light of your own conscious awareness to these wounded places. You do not fight your inner darkness. You love it back into the light. This is the magic of Isis, the magic that can remember what has been broken. And you must live a life of uncompromising integrity. This is the practice of Maat. You speak the truth, even when it is difficult. You act with honor, even when no one is watching. You treat others with compassion because you recognize that they too are wounded soldiers in the same cosmic war. Every choice you make is either a vote for Maat or a vote for infect. Every thought you think is either strengthening the gods or feeding the serpent. There is no neutral ground. Your life is the front line. This is the great secret that was hidden from you. They wanted you to be a passive believer, a fearful sinner, a waiting victim, but your true identity is a healer, a warrior, a co-creator, and a restorer of worlds. The breakdown of Maat was a tragedy, but it was also an opportunity. It created the possibility for the ultimate act of free will, the choice of a soul born into a world of darkness to consciously and courageously choose the light, not out of obedience, but out of love. This choice, made by a sovereign being, is 1,000 times more powerful than the unconscious perfection of the original garden. It is the one thing the great serpent never anticipated. It is the one thing that can truly defeat him. It is you. The deepest and most practical secrets of this cosmic war, the initiatory techniques for healing the crack in your own soul, are for those who are ready to take up their sacred post. If you are one of them, our newsletter, Insights Academy, is where we share the battle plans. The link is in the description. The order of the world was broken. The serpent is in the garden, and the gods are calling for heroes. It is time to answer the call. So, is the story of the broken Maat a forgotten piece of cosmic history, a literal explanation for the flawed world we live in? Or is it a profound psychological metaphor, a map of our own inner fall from grace and the eternal struggle between our higher self and our inner demons? Or is the most powerful truth that it is both at the same time? Let us know what you believe in the comments below.